صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أفمن زين له سوء عمله فرآه حسنا أفمن زين له سوء عمله فرآه حسنا فإن الله يضل من يشاء ويهدي من يشاء فلا تذهب نفسك عليهم حسرات إن الله عليم بما يصنعون. والله الذي أرسل الرياح فتثير سحابا فسقناه إلى بلد ميت فأحيينا به الأرض بعد موتها كذلك النشور. من كان يريد العزة فلله العزة جميعا إليه يصعد الكلم الطيب والعمل الصالح يرفعه والذين يمكرون السيئات لهم عذاب شديد ومكر أولئك هو يبور. والله خلقكم من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم جعلكم أزواجا وما تحمل من أنثى ولا تضع إلا بعلمه وما يعمر من معمر ولا ينقص من عمره إلا في كتاب إن ذلك على الله يسير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إن شانئك هو الأبتر. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. I normally don't like introductions, but I am privileged and honored to do this one. Mostly because a lot of you we haven't had Jalal with us in a while, so just a reminder. Jalal works with the Mainstay Foundation out in Michigan, and he is also a lawyer, an author, and a lecturer. And I believe his latest book was Fatima, the Flower of Life. And he has many books. You can find all of them on mainstay.us and follow his work there. So again, it's my honor to introduce you once again and welcome you after a long absence from here. So without further ado, please welcome him with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب، والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, we ask Allah to again send His greatest peace and blessings upon Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all the blessings He has given us, and the greatest blessing being that He allowed us to be of the ones who remain steadfast, dedicated, and loyal on the path of our Master after the Prophet, the Commander of the Faithful, the Prince of the Believers, the Protector of the Prophet and his message, Al-Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. We praise Allah for this blessing and every blessing, for without Allah we would have nothing. Assalamu alaikum, my dear respected elders, my dear respected brothers, my dear respected sisters, wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before we begin, my dear brothers and sisters, I would ask that we all take a moment, a brief moment, to remember the martyrs, the shuhada in our dear Lebanon, Palestine, and remember all of our brothers and sisters that have fallen in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and continue to pray for them. So that we take this moment briefly to recite Surah Al-Fatiha for all of the shuhada, all of the martyrs, all of the innocent lives, and continue to have our thoughts and prayers with them, inshaAllah, ba'da salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Muhammad wa ali Al-Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman. Tonight, my dear brothers and sisters, with the brief time that I have with you all, and I wanted to thank you to Brother Karrar for those kind words. It's an honor and a privilege to be with you all in the mosque of Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam. When we come to this institution, many of you, your families, your friends, the people that you know, and perhaps some of the people that you don't know, were responsible in making this mosque possible, making this institution possible, to welcome friends and strangers alike, to welcome all of the lovers of Ahlul-Bayt, anyone that is Muslim, anyone that is calling or wishing to be on the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tonight, with this brief time that I have with you all, I wish to talk about this very subject, this idea of community, and celebrate with you all of your great accomplishments as a community, as families that have come together generation after generation, decade after decade, committing themselves to the memory of Ahlul-Bayt alayhim salam, and not only keeping it a memory of the past, a heritage, a history, but making it a part of their lives, their lifestyle. So tonight, my dear brothers and sisters, I wish to celebrate with you all. Celebrate with you all the great work that has been put forth and all of the great work to come. And recognizing and realizing, in summary of what we're going to be celebrating, that you and I, whether it be here in Pomona, California, in the United States of America, in North America, and across the world, that you and I stand on the shoulders of giants. We stand on the shoulders of giants. Any success that you and I may have, whether it be in our personal, individual capacity, or be in our collective community capacity, be in this institution, in this foundation, or anywhere else, you look and you see that that success is only possible by looking behind the scene, seeing who did the groundwork, who set up the foundation for you and I to hold on to our faith, for you and I to proudly say that we are followers of Ahlul-Bayt alayhim salam. This did not come out of a vacuum. This did not come out of thin air. The young man that can proudly wear dhul fiqar around his neck, the young sister that can proudly walk with her hijab, maintaining her modesty, both in the way she or he walks, dresses, talks, communicates. It's something to be proud of, especially here in the United States of America. Many of us coming from immigrant backgrounds, whether we're calling our homelands Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, or other places, we live here and we are a part of the societies that we exist in here, proudly holding on to our roots. But I can't claim that pride. I can't claim that success that I've held on to my faith without realizing the giants upon whose shoulders I stand on. And this is something that we have to look back deep into our history as followers of Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam to see that this is part of our tradition, to look at our roots, to recognize those who came before us. That if I want to see a young man before me who mashallah is practicing his faith, he didn't just come on his own. He came from a father. He came from a mother. He came from uncles. He came from a support system. That support system, to my young brothers here that I see right in front of me, my young brothers here that I see right in front of me, right? You're with me, right, brothers? If you are to engage and continue to grow in the society that you're living in, you have to know where you come from. You have to know where you come from. And yes, I mean, know that you come from a homeland called Iraq. Know that you come from a homeland called Lebanon. Know that you come from places with roots and heritage and richness. But also know that you collectively come from a spiritual heritage called Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam. Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam were the ones who sacrificed everything in order for each and every one of us to have that pride to say, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. No one today would be able to practice their faith, knowingly or unknowingly, as followers of this faith of Islam, saying La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, ahsant. If it were not for the sacrifices of Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam, all of us stand on their shoulders. All of us. I want us to take a brief look in this reflection as we celebrate our success, whatever success that we may have, and we should be proud of it. And you all should be proud of this institution that you are sitting in, praying in, listening in. But I want you to pay attention. We stand on the shoulders of giants, Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam, who taught and raised followers and companions, and they built what they built. And we only grow knowing of those who came before us, way back then and now. So when I look at the community of Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam, the community of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi that he established from the very beginning in Mecca, when the Prophet just had a handful of companions, a handful of followers, starting with his wife, As-Sayyidah Khadija alayhi salam, and his brother, Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, and the small group of companions that would be with them. Less than 100 were in the first 12 years, 13 years of the Prophet's message. Until he was persecuted so much, made to flee his home of Mecca, persecuted, left Mecca and went to a land called Yathrib to build a community in what would become Madinatun Nabi, the city of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he would build a community. And that 100 people would turn to 300, and that 300 would turn to 1,000, and that 1,000 would turn to 3,000, and the 3,000 would turn to 10,000, and the 10,000 would turn to 100,000 and beyond. In just about 2 decades, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam united 100 warring tribes and made them a civilization. A civilization that you and I, wherever we go in the world and whatever time in history that we are in, you say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, you are part of that civilization. And that civilization that you are a part of, anyone is welcome in it. It doesn't need to be in your blood like some other people. Anyone is welcome into that civilization. And that's the power of Islam. That's the power of the community of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When they built, they didn't exclude anyone. When they built, they didn't take anyone for granted. When they built, they didn't take advantage of anyone. They built with the strength that they had, and with that strength they welcomed. The community of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was one that when he would leave Mecca, persecuted, would go to Medina, build his community. And the persecution would continue in the form of the battles that were waged on Rasulullah by the Meccans, by Abu Sufyan, by the lot. They would go forward, fight him, until they could fight no more. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in 630 CE would march back to Mecca several years later in a bloodless conquest. 10,000 men would march behind Rasulullah. He would walk into Mecca and no blood would be shed. They would say, fine, we are giving up. Wave the white flag. Abu Sufyan enters Islam. Even the likes of Abu Sufyan, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Idhabu antum at-tulaqa." Leave, go. You are free. But look at the importance of history and realizing when we look at our past, we're not just trying to live there. We're trying to understand the circumstances of our time. Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam knew that. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam knew that. Imam al-Hassan knew that. Ali ibn Abi Talib, Amir al-Mu'mineen, knew that. So that when they would address the challenges of their time, decades later, Imam Ali to Muawiyah, Al-Hussein alayhi salam to Yazid, Ali ibn al-Hussein, when Sayyida Zainab to Yazid, to Ibn Ziyad, what would they tell them? Yabna tulaqa, don't forget who you come from and who we come from. And I say this to all my brothers and sisters here. Don't forget who you come from and who they come from. Whoever is challenging you. Whoever is challenging you. Now what if we're challenging each other? This is where we need to remind ourselves. We all come from the same root. All of us. As followers of Ahlul-Beyt alayhim as-salam. We all come from the same root. So when we're celebrating together our successes, they do not come without you and me. It's not you or me here. This is a message I'm sharing wherever I go in the United States of America. It's not you or me. It's you and me. Wherever we go, our community here in the United States of America, the Shia community across the United States of America, from Los Angeles, California, all the way to New York City, from West Coast to East Coast, we are one. You guys have better weather here. I envy you. But we are one. When we celebrate together. It's you and me. And especially my father's generation, my grandfather's generation, my mother's generation, my grandmother's generation. I have to acknowledge them, respect them, kiss their hands and kiss their foreheads for the sacrifices that they made in order for me to be here. I'll share with you, with all of the tragedies that are taking place right now and all of the oppression and injustice that we're seeing overseas, this isn't new. My grandparents, they fled Lebanon in the late 70s during the Civil War. Many of you may have similar stories, whether it's leaving the tragedies and the oppression, the injustice that were experienced in Lebanon and Iraq, other places in the world. Each one has their experience. My grandparents left. Alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullah. Left, sacrificed, put their own lives at risk in order to provide what? Their children a different life. A potential, an opportunity for the future. A salute to our mothers, a salute to our fathers, a salute to our grandfathers, our grandmothers. My grandmother would tell me the story of how she would escape gunfire in the streets of Beirut during the Civil War, holding small children under her arms and running in the street, just trying to get to safety, with the hope of protecting her children. Decades later, her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren listen to the stories that she shares. When my parents and my grandparents came to the United States, they had the option to go to different communities. They chose Michigan. When I asked my grandmother, I said, Tata, why did you and Jiddu come to Dearborn, Michigan? She said, well, we had the options between a few different places, including New York and New Jersey. The reason why we chose Dearborn, Michigan was because we heard of a sheikh who was leading a new community. And we heard of a mosque that was bringing together the followers of Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam. And your grandfather wanted to make sure at the very least that the religion of his children would not be lost. That same institution that my grandfather came to Dearborn, Michigan for, my children now go to school there. My children. So his great-grandchildren benefit from the decision that he made. Never should there be a day where my child stands proud for their connection to Ahlul-Bayt and Rasulullah without realizing not my decision, but the decision of my parents and my grandparents that influenced them to this day. You and I, we have roots. And our strength, our power, our success is in those roots. We come from something. I want you to realize this. My young brother and my young sister especially. I want you to realize this. It's not a decision that we're making here. Whether we are American or Iraqi, whether we're American or we're Muslim, whether we're American or we're Shia, that's not what we're talking about here. We're way beyond that. It's for you to know that you are Iraqi, you are Iranian, you are Lebanese, you have your ethnic roots and you are proud of them because you come from something, you come from somewhere. And your compass is you as a Muslim, as a Shia, and your existence in your society that you are grateful for is this opportunity as an American citizen. There's no question about that. It's not or. You and I come from what? Ahlul-Bayt alayhim salam give me this guidance to do what? To be successful in the society that we live in and not take for granted the sacrifices of those who came before us. There was a companion of Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam who asked him a very crucial question. Or actually, the Imam asked him a very crucial question that you and I can benefit from today. This companion, his name was Hamad. Hamad was living in the Byzantine Empire, west of the Muslim lands, west. Hamad was living in the Byzantine Empire. He would go and frequent the lands of the Muslims, especially Medina, where Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam was living. Whenever he would go, he would visit Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam. In one particular visit, he would go to the Imam and he would complain to the Imam. What is Hamad complaining about? He's complaining about all of the Muslims that chide him, that mock him, that scorn him. Every time that he comes back, they scorn him and they say, oh, you're still living with the Byzantines? You're still living in the West? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to resurrect you with them. Watch and see. You're going to be resurrected with the disbelievers. So Hamad is bothered. He's bothered. He goes to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam and he's complaining, he's venting to him. So Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam asks him, Hamad, when you were living in the land of the Byzantines, in those places, do you remember our cause? He says, yes, I do. He said, when you come back to the land of the Muslims, do you remember our cause? He said, no, I do not. He said, oh Hamad, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will resurrect you as a nation of your own, and you will have light beaming before your hands. You and I, my dear brothers and sisters, we have a great task at hand. And when I say I'm here to celebrate with you all tonight, I mean it in every meaning of the word. MashaAllah, a community that is growing and thriving and preserving its faith in the environment and the society that you're in. God bless you. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you more strength to continue building what you are building in this community, in this society. But this does not come, again, without recognizing where you come from and having an idea of where you want to be. My young brothers, you're all listening? Especially those on their phones? You with me? All right. You and I have roots. I mentioned your fathers. I mentioned your mothers. I mentioned your grandfathers, your grandmothers. All of those who came before us. Many of us, we can get proud of our accomplishments. Whether it be individual accomplishments in our education, in our jobs, in our professions, in our businesses, or even be some of the contributions that we've made, like this mosque and other organizations. Al-Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam, the son of Imam al-Hussein, the one who survived Karbala, he teaches his followers in Risalatul Huquq, the treatise on rights. He teaches them the right of the father upon you, and each and every one of us has a father. The right of your father upon you is that you know he is your root, and that without him you would not be. If you like anything in yourself, know that your father is the root of that blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon you. You come from someone. You come from something. Your mother. The Imam says in the same vein, the right of your mother is to know that she carried you where no one can carry anyone else. She protected you with all of her organs, something that no one else can do for another human being. She went hungry as long as you ate. She went thirsty as long as you drank. She would go without clothing as long as you were clothed. She would sit in the sun as long as you were in the shade. She would lose sleep for your sake. All for the possibility of you belonging to her. You will never be able to repay her except through strength in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You belong to someone. You belong to something. Each and every one of us has a mother. Each and every one of us has a father. Each and every one of us has an origin. So when we celebrate success, we have to celebrate it and build upon it, knowing upon whose shoulders we stand on. Because if we become a community who does not know their roots and get so proud of the success that we have now, and we forget where we came from, and we forget about those who contributed to us, who gave us, who helped us, who supported us in building our families, in building our mosques, in building our schools, and giving us a legacy that we can be proud of, then we're a community without an identity. And we are a community without what we call in Arabic usul. And we know that from the tarbiyah of Muhammad wa al Muhammad, these usul, these roots, these principles, these foundations are what make up who you and I are today. And that is what is going to secure our future in the United States of America, in North America, and all over the world. Because it is us who can maintain those roots, but look into the future and work and build upon it, that will be preparing for Sahab al-Asri wa Zaman. Ajallahu ta'ala farajhu sharif. Do you see how all of these connect? Sahab al-Asri wa Zaman, Ajallahu ta'ala farajhu sharif, is ready. He's been ready. There's not a shadow of doubt on that. You and I, each and every one of us, play a role. You and I, each and every one of us, have an opportunity. Remember what I was saying earlier about you or me? No. It's you and me. Sahab al-Asr wa Zaman isn't waiting for each and every one of us to flex on each other and see who's stronger, who's wittier, who's smarter. Sahab al-Asr wa Zaman, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajhu al-Sharif, is waiting for each and every one of us to see, when I show my strength, am I giving strength to my brother? If I am strong, does it make him stronger? Or is my display of strength making my brothers and sisters weaker? Is it a competition? No. That's not where we're going. And if we've made mistakes, let us seek forgiveness. If we have sins, let us repent. Is that not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us for in this life? For us to be tested? And know that each and every one of us, yes, we can be a test for each other. And we can be a blessing. And we can be a support. And we can truly be, not just when we say, Assalamu alaikum, my brothers and sisters, we can truly mean it. And saying, my brother, my sister, I derive strength from you. Even merely being in each other's presence gives us strength, gives us honor, gives us the reminder of why we're here and how precious and delicate life is. That yes, you may see somebody just for a glimpse, just for a few minutes, just for a few hours, but those few minutes, those few hours can make you better. Can we enter each other's presence and make it where now you are better because we saw each other than we were before? When we're looking at what we're trying to do as a community, my dear brothers and sisters, if it's not these things, then what is it for? If it's not these things, then what is it for? The community of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa that would continue to be built by Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam. And yes, there were fluctuations over time in number. And yes, there were fluctuations over time in loyalty. And yes, there were fluctuations over time in dedication to the true principles of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa. But I will tell you what did not ever waver was the faith and hope and commitment of the followers of Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam in the representatives of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So with all the challenges that we're facing, whether it be with us, each other, or it be with our families, or it be seeing the tragedies and the atrocities, the oppression and injustice that's happening overseas to our beloved brothers and sisters overseas, never lose hope and faith that Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman is seeing all of this. Never lose hope and faith that Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-Sharif, is a witness. And there is a plan. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is providing him the support. And that justice will come. And truth will reign. And peace will be established. And you and I do have a role to play in that. It takes each and every one of us to be dedicated to their own personal responsibility of becoming the best version of themselves, being a mercy to one another, giving that kindness and that support to one another, that develops into the social responsibility and the collective change that we can see in our lifetime, inshaAllah. With this, my dear brothers and sisters, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to bless your beautiful community. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue to unite this beautiful community. Bring us all closer to one another. Because we don't know how much time we have. Many of you have, over the years, over even some of the months, lost loved ones, mourned friends. I have. More than I can count on one hand. And just this year alone. Life is too short. How do you want to spend it? You know the principles. You know the foundations. You know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from you. You know what Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-Sharif wants from you. You know what will help his cause. And you know what will delay his cause. Let's do the work. Let's hand in hand, work together, move forward. The best that we can. It's in the small things. And whatever time that we have, young and old alike. Let us work, inshaAllah, with this intention, with this repentance, seeking the forgiveness from one another, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and move forward. The future is bright, inshaAllah. We have hope, we have faith, and we will be successful, inshaAllah. هذا والحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة والتسليم على نبينا محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد Ahsanallah ilaykum. I did want to share with you all, my dear brothers and sisters, if you do permit me. I'm here just for this weekend. And inshallah, tomorrow we're holding a workshop called Inspire. And based on the teachings of Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam, the teachings of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Holy Quran, we're going to be giving a professional workshop, myself and my mentor and brother, Sayyid Haidar Bahr al-Ulum, on how does one project themselves in their society? How does one brand themselves, present themselves in their society while maintaining their Islamic ethics? How does one grow professionally, successfully, but being a practicing, successful Muslim at the same time? Too many of us, we separate these principles. We separate these identities even. A successful professional, a successful entrepreneur is one thing, and then a successful Muslim, a practicing Muslim who comes to the mosque and observes his worship is another thing. What we've been striving to do at the Mainstay Foundation through a number of different education development efforts that we do across the country and even across the world is providing young Muslims and young followers of Ahlul-Bayt alayhim salam the tools so that they can be successful in both their professional lives, their business lives, as well as their personal lives. That Islam provides you that foundation in all of that to be successful across the board, inshallah. If any of you is interested, inshallah, in joining us, tomorrow we're holding the workshop. You can register at mainstay.us/inspire-OC. mainstay.us/inspire-OC. And if any of you would like some more information about that, inshallah, I'm going to be sticking around with the brothers and sisters. I'm glad to answer any questions, inshallah, at your service. All of us together, whatever we do, my dear brothers and sisters, this is a khidmah, this is a service to Ahlul-Bayt alayhim salam, to the followers of Ahlul-Bayt alayhim salam, and ultimately to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So thank you all. Again, let's remember our brothers and sisters, all of our marhumeen, those who made this majlis, made this institution possible, inshallah, as well as all of the martyrs, the shuhada of Lebanon, of Palestine. Let's remember them with Surah Al-Fatiha, but before the loudest of salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. As-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. Al-maghdubi alayhim wa lad-dallin. Ahsantum majureen, inshallah.
Thank you so much, Haj Jalal. That was very inspiring and motivational speech. We appreciate that. And I think we are all motivated now to basically focus on the message, you and me. It's not you or me, it's you and me. That's the greatest theme that I've heard tonight. So hopefully we can focus on that and get ourselves engaged in discussions about that too. I didn't ask the audience if they have questions for Haj Jalal. We can take that opportunity actually and ask these questions if you guys are interested. If you want me to pass the microphone to the folks sitting around, boys and girls, that we can do that as well. Any interest in questions? Any questions? You do? Okay. Haj Jalal, I think you're summoned.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullah.
I just wanted to ask you a question. So, like, this concept of like community, is this sort of like, how does it sort of relate to like a Muslim community at large? When you were talking about like our Sunni brothers and sisters, and especially like in our in like the Dearborn community, it's a very big Muslim community. It's very diverse, especially here. You know, I come from like I'm come from a mixed family.
Okay.
So like I'm very exposed to both cultures. So it's like what do you see in bridging that gap? What does Muslim unity mean to you? And how do you see the goal? Where do you see that goal coming from?
When you say, if you don't mind, brother, when you say mixed family, do you mean ethnically or religiously?
Like half Sunni, half Shia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. From the Shia perspective, it's actually very straightforward. We look at our Sunni brothers and sisters, whether it be through the instruction of Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam, from Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib, to the rest of the Imams, and I'll give a couple examples from the Imam, to Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, and then even in the present day with our Maraja. May Allah prolong all of their lives. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib gives us a beautiful framework. Letter 53 of Nahj al-Balagha, which was an executive order to Malik al-Ashtar, his appointed governor in Egypt. A lot of people don't realize Malik al-Ashtar never ruled over Egypt. He was assassinated on his way to Egypt. But look at the legacy of Imam Ali alayhi salam with Malik al-Ashtar, with an order which is now encapsulated in letter 53 of Nahj al-Balagha, which is the compilation of Sharif al-Radi, 11th century scholar. Letter 53 in part, and many people know this part, he says to Malik, O Malik, do not be a ferocious beast over your subjects, your citizens. You are to treat people as one of two kinds, either your brother in faith or your equal in humanity. Or more accurately, نَظِيرٌ لَكَ فِي الْخَلْقِ, your equal in creation. Right? This idea of faith and creation, or humanity at large, sets the paradigm of a follower of Ali ibn Abi Talib, yani his worldview. Also, what some people don't realize historically is that Egypt was a non-Muslim society. Muslim control was over Egypt. But Egypt was predominantly non-Muslim. So Amir al-Mu'mineen was sending Malik to rule over it because there was Muslim control from the conquest from before. From the conquest that went into Africa, North Africa, Muslim control was now over Egypt. But Egypt was a majority non-Muslims living in Egypt. So the Imam is telling him, when you're ruling over them, you have to treat them as one of two kinds. So if there is somebody that of your faith that says, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, this person you have to treat him as what? A brother, a sister, family. He didn't say, if someone is your companion in wilayah, someone a follower of mine, someone on our millah, let's say, with millah being, because millah sometimes can be creed, and millah sometimes can be general belief. He said faith, deen. So the emphasis for you and I is what? Our brothers and sisters in Islam. My Sunni brother, my Sunni sister, I see them as a brother, as a sister, as family. Even if others don't necessarily see me the same way. That's one. Two, and I'm going to give you actually something that my brother and colleague Sayyid Hassan al-Hakim and I, we co-authored a book called The Pope Meets the Ayatollah, an introduction to Shia Islam. And we talk about the four spheres of identity as taught by our scholars, as understood from Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam. The core sphere is the sphere of being a follower of Ahlul-Beyt. This is what informs the rest of the paradigm. The second sphere is this identity in Islam. You and I as Shia belong to Islam just as much as every other Muslim. The third sphere is the sphere of monotheism, of those who believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the fourth sphere is the sphere of humanity. Imam Ali alayhi salam sets this for us. أَخٌ لَكَ فِي الدِّينِ نَظِيرٌ لَكَ فِي الْخَلْقِ. In practical implementation of how do you practice within a society, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam had a number of traditions, narrations that he would advise his companions. In some of them he would say, go to their mosques, go to their funerals, go and visit their ill ones. Who was he talking about? Their. He's talking about al-Amma. He's talking about the general public, which was who? Muslims that were not followers of Ahlul-Beyt, right? He's not talking about al-Khassa. Khassa, that's us, right? The followers of Ahlul-Beyt, the close ones. So go to their mosques, go to their funerals, go and visit their ill ones. There's the sense of what? Do not disengage and isolate yourself. Now, practically, you also need to make sure that you are strong in your own creed and your own faith so that you can engage properly. So this is a side note that many of our scholars emphasize. Yes, you should be engaging, you should be part of society, you shouldn't isolate yourself, you need to see them as your brothers and sisters, etc., 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 right? But there is the onus, the responsibility on the young Shi'i, the young follower of Ahlul-Beyt is, you need to know your stuff. You need to educate yourself. You need to read the Quran. You need to read Nahjul Balagha. You need to educate yourself on the books of our scholars. You need to know your stuff, right? Emphasizing even further from our maraja, especially in times of civil strife. Iraq, God bless all of our Iraqi brothers and sisters and the beautiful country of Iraq, which I've had the honor and privilege of visiting, alhamdulillah, over a dozen times. Iraq has gone through some extremely difficult times over the past 2 decades. And this isn't even looking at before then. But Iraq is resilient. Iraq is strong. Perhaps that is why Grand Ayatollah Sistani, when he said after the attacks on the Askari shrine, he emphasized there's no reprisal acts. There's no attacking, people from the Sunni school of thought as vengeance for what happened against the Askari shrine. And then Grand Ayatollah Sistani, may Allah prolong his life, has been quoted to have said, when people were referring to our Sunni brothers and sisters, he said, do not call them our Sunni brothers. لا تقولوا إخواننا. Do not say our brothers. بل قولوا أنفسنا. Say ourselves, our own souls. That's something that hasn't been said before. It's truly revolutionary when it comes to Muslim relations, like intra-faith, within the faith itself. And you see that Grand Ayatollah Sistani, may Allah prolong his life, is not, by the way, unique in his own person. And what do I mean by this? This is from the tradition of our Maraja, this emphasis of bringing Muslims together, uniting Muslims. Not just, vague or vain slogans, but truly in the most troubling times, in the hardest times, bringing people together. When there is an opportunity for reprisal, where there's an opportunity for people to hurt one another, they calm the situation down. And you look at the history of our Maraja, whether it be with Ayatollah Sistani, Sayyid al-Khou'i, Sayyid Muhsin al-Hakim, Sayyid al-Burujurdi, many of these scholars, they brought Muslims together. There was this emphasis on it. However, keep in mind, with the emphasis on brotherhood amongst Muslims of different schools of thought, that doesn't take away from your firmness in your creed, in your identity as a Shi'i. Bil'akis, what it does is it strengthens it. And that's what's important when you're looking at the 4 spheres of identity, is that you have to make sure that the paradigm that you're looking through, it's only that, the sense of brotherhood, the sense of equality. And I didn't even touch on that, the sense of equality amongst people regardless of their faith. This comes from a paradigm of whom? A Shi'i. That's where it comes from. If you go to other schools of thought, if you go to other faiths, they're not going to tell you the same story. Does that make sense? Does that help?
Yeah. So it's like, but inside, like when you go to like Mecca or Medina, for example, when you see Muslims from all walks of life, all going to like perform Hajj or Umrah or visiting Rasulullah, or just going to like any masjid, like my Sayyid, like he says, like if it's Friday and it's you're by a masjid, go into that masjid. Like don't look at the name of the masjid. Obviously, like it's important to to attend your masjid, but it's like, doesn't it, like I feel like sometimes like you want your beliefs to like be shared amongst other people. Like inside, sometimes we're like, man, like I love my Sunni brother, but like, can he like why like he doesn't believe in the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, for example, or like he doesn't know about like the Imams of Ahlul-Beyt alayhimus salam, or like he doesn't acknowledge this. Like, what does that mean for him? What does that mean for my relationship with him? Is that like gonna make us stop being friends, etc.?
I'm gonna share a story with you. I believe from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, it was with one of his companions, either Zurara or Abu Basir. and I don't want to misquote, so it was one of them. I know it was either Zurara or Abu Basir. The companion tells the Imam, see the spirit of like, I just want to teach them, I just want to help them, I want to give them. The companion tells the Imam, if somebody asks me about us, if he asks me about you, meaning the teachings of Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam, this was a very sensitive time, right? Absolutely. So he asks him, can I tell them? Can I talk to them? He said, if he asks you, then answer them. He said, what if he asks me more? He said, answer more. He said, what if he stops asking, but I want to give more? He said, stop answering, stop giving. He said, but what if I want to give more? He said, وَمَا لَكَ بِالنَّاسِ? What do you want with people? When our scholars look at this is in the context of what? And we talk about this, my brother and my colleague Sayyid Hassan Hakim and I, in the book that I just mentioned. This idea of proselytization, right? This idea of trying to convert people, right? The Imams tell us, and this is also attributed to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, كُونُوا دُعَاةً لَنَا بِغَيْرِ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ. Be a call unto us without your tongue, right? What's your name, brother?
Hamza.
Hamza, mashallah. Hamza, you be like Hamza. Be like Hamza, and the people will come towards the path of Hamza. Was Hamza not a lover of Muhammad wa al Muhammad? Of course he was. Be like Hamza. Just be like him. Pray like him, worship like him, deal with people like him, protect people like him. Do that, and people are like, who is he? I want to be like that. I want to be like him, right? This is the idea of walking the walk that Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam were telling us to do, right? Instead of just trying to proselytize, and I want you to be a Shi'i, I want you to be a Muslim, I want you to be, right? So this is something that is also unique with the followers of Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam. The Ahlul-Beyt did not want their followers to go out into society and be a threat to society. Oh look, the Shia are trying to convert everybody. No. Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam, they were focusing on raising their companions and their followers to understand their creed, be strong in their faith, be a mercy to those around them, so that when people look at Hamza, they say, وَمَنْ مِثْلُهُ? Who's like him? He's a follower of Ahlul-Beyt alayhi salam. He's the most honest, he's the most trustworthy, he's the most giving, the most generous, right? And then people want to be like you, just based on the way you act, the way you behave. If each and every one of us took it upon ourselves to be the best versions of ourselves, we would be looked at in our society the most successful. And I don't mean, when I say successful, by the way, I don't mean just material success, right? I mean comprehensive, all over. There's a lot of people with material success, but they're miserable. There's a lot of people with material success, but they're depressed. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, anytime we're saying anything from this podium, from the member of Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam, it has to be dunya wa akhirah. It has to be comprehensive. It has to be looking at the big picture. So when we were saying earlier about standing on the shoulders of giants, right? That's what? That's looking at the whole spectrum, the whole experience. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Jazakallah khairan.
Thank you so much, Hamza, for that beautiful question. Lovely. We have a couple questions on the Menti, but before, walaikum salam, before we get to that Menti questions, I do have a question that stems out of Hamza's question to Hajj Jalal, which is to be the follower of Allah by, not by your tongue, but by your actions. And that's the beautiful message and the hadith of Imam Sadiq, which emphasizes the positiveness. In case you want to be an advocate for Ahlul Bayt, how positive you need to be and not trying to approach them or rub them the wrong way. How positive you need to be, and how environment you need to foster, what environment you need to foster based on trust and mutual respect and positiveness, basically, because the positivity unleashes the creativity of people. If you'd like to shed a couple moments on those.
Ahsant Hajj. But before I'd like to ask permission from my teacher and my mentor, Sayyid Haidar Bahr al-Ulum, who's joined us, just to continue.
صلى على محمد وآل محمد.
There needs to be, without a shadow of a doubt, the positivity amongst us. We can't be a call onto the path of Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam to people outside of our faith, outside of our creed, if we are that call amongst ourselves. And what do I mean by that? It's very simple. I don't want to make this philosophical. It's very simple. Look at the entire message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. I was sent to perfect the best of ethics. You and I, it comes down to when we shake each other's hand, when we embrace one another, when we smile at one another. When I was saying earlier, do we give each other strength? What do I mean by that? Do you know the power of each of us looking at each other genuinely and wishing well for each other? We're just wishing well. Like, I want you to be successful. I want you to be happy. I want you to be good. That is powerful beyond measure. If we do that with each other and we have that strength of positivity, right? That smile, the charity of a smile. If we can do that with each other, then when we go out into the world, right? When we go out into our jobs, into our professions, into our businesses, we're feeding off of the positivity that we shared with one another. Who's going to take us on, right? And then that energy, it's not, by the way, who's going to take us on like we want to fight the world. No, not at all. Relax. We want peace for everyone. We want goodness for everyone. So when you're carrying that on and you're going out into the world, people are going to be attracted to that. It's like they're going to wonder, what do you believe in? What do you represent? Where are you coming from? So absolutely that positivity. And that positivity starts with a smile. And that smile needs to be instituted. And mashallah, I feel it here. God bless you all for making me feel welcome. When I come into the masjid, when I come into this place, right? That smile, by the way, didn't come from thin air. Like I said earlier, that smile was passed down from generation to generation. That smile came from person to person, right? It was instituted. And then we bring that forth. We continue it, right? So your generation, Hamza, you have to continue it, man. You got to keep going with it. All right?
Thank you so much. We have a couple questions on Minty platform. If you can, Mustafa, read them for us.
Sure. So, a couple of questions. There were two questions, and something happened. The page refreshed, and I lost them. But it was essentially, I wrote it down. It was along the lines of, what about people who are beautiful when looking outside, like towards other communities, but utter and disrespectful within their own community, such as the Shia community?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
So essentially, earlier when you were talking about how we need to come together as one Muslim identity, not Shia or Sunni. It's more Shia and Sunni.
No, I didn't say that.
You didn't say that?
I didn't say that.
Okay.
What I said was you and me, right?
Yeah.
That was something I was emphasizing. I think maybe, I don't know if that's from the question or from yourself.
That was from myself.
It's an interesting way of bringing it together. Keep going. I don't want to interrupt you. Keep going.
Yeah. My bad. So basically it's saying, what about people who are like charismatic or looking positive to outside people, but
Okay.
within their own community they're utter and disrespectful and like they're a misfit?
I mean, that definitely is not something that we would be condoning or we would want. Like I was saying earlier, we need to be taking on the ethics and the manners and what the Prophet ﷺ taught us and having that positivity within in order for us to be that call onto the faith of Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam for the outside world, right? The whole idea of كُونُوا دُعَاةً لَنَا بِغَيْرِ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ. I can't be that call onto Ahlul-Bayt in my action unless that action starts at home. And I literally mean home is in your own household, into your community, into your masjid, your family, your friends, etc. And then you carry yourself out into the rest of the world. Because my brother, with this specifically,
perhaps can be disingenuous, that you're putting on a certain face to the outside world, but then with your own, you're mistreating them. And that's not something, by the way, that's sustainable. Does that make sense? By the way, that is actually a good question that Sayyid and I may actually address in the workshop tomorrow. So if you're interested in learning more about that, register for the workshop, for whoever asked that question.
Sure.
We would like to have that message for everyone, not only for whoever asked the question. If you guys have time tomorrow at hand, please go and attend that workshop. Register for it first and then attend it, please. You can either register for it immediately or tonight through the website, right, Sheikh Jalal?
Yes.
Okay.
mainstay.us/inspire-OC.
I'll put it up on the screen here in a second.
That's excellent.
Nice. Thank you so much. Mustafa, read the
Yeah.
second question, please.
So, it seems like this is our last and final question here. If my household has a different school of faith, Sunni and Shia, is it wajib to teach my kids the Ahlul-Beyt school, or just mustahab as a mother?
You want to read it again?
Sure. If my household has a different school of faith, Sunni and Shia, is it wajib to teach my kids the Ahlul-Beyt school, or just mustahab as a mother?
The responsibility of raising children is on the father. That is the legal obligation, is on the father. Any individual, especially a mother, with the influence that they have on their children, is going to raise them based on what they know. I don't want to take away that obligation there and emphasize, yes, the teaching of Ahlul-Bayt alayhim salam from the mother should be coming from the mother as a follower of Ahlul-Bayt alayhim salam. Because the literal obligation for raising the children, for teaching the children, for clothing the children, for feeding the children, is on the father himself. So that's his responsibility and how they're brought up. But I also would not say that, and of course, when it comes to particularly your jurisprudential duty, you would need to go back to your marja. But the understanding of raising our children is based on, we wouldn't raise our children or even influence our household or anyone that is within our reach with anything other than the teachings of Ahlul-Bayt alayhim salam. Assalamu alaikum.
The floor.
Assalamu alaikum. Sorry, brother. You're probably tired or jet lagged or something. You have energy for one more question?
Of course.
Okay. So you mentioned already the responsibility of the father in bringing up the kids. But there's also la ikraha fid din. There's also, you have to respect their autonomy and their, what they want to do, especially if they're middle, teenagers. So how, just some practical parenting tips. So you want your kid to pray, for example, or you want them to read Quran, or you want them to educate themselves in some way that, or behave in some way that you think is right. They think is, well, my dad thinks it's right. I don't really care, or I don't see the benefit really for myself, and I'm in a community where nobody's doing this. So without kind of getting confrontational or, getting people upset and, or, you have any strategies?
God bless you and all of the parents in the room. Parenting is not easy. And I say that because I am a parent. Now, my children are a bit younger than the teenage years. I'm not looking forward to the teenage years. I can see it. My daughter is 7. My daughter is Zahra. She actually turned 7 in about a month. My son Ali is 4, right? It's narrated that Imam Ali alayhi salam said, when you're raising your children, there's essentially three phases, and I'm paraphrasing here, right? لعبهم سبع أدبهم سبع. So play with them for 7, discipline them for 7, and then befriend them for 7, right? And I'm paraphrasing. When you're looking at how to engage with your children, you have to see what phase are they in their lives. Playing with them. Like I know with my kids right now, I get through to them only through play. And my wife and I, we have to remind each other, how do we get the message across to them? Because it's not just them doing what we want. I want it to stick. I want it to be a habit. I want it to be a lifestyle. So when I get up and I pray, I'm a little bit harder on my son, even though he's younger. I'm a little bit harder on him than I am with my daughter, because I'm a father and like we're, منحن للبنات for our daughters. But for my son, my inclination is like, يلا get up, right? He's 4. But I remind myself, so I get up and I say, Ali, I'm going to pray. Do you want to pray with me? And sometimes he'll say, yeah. And sometimes he'll say, no, thank you, right? I don't punish him, right? I don't discipline him. I'm like, okay. Or I'll try to come at him and say, Ali, I'm going to pray, and then we're going to play a really fun game. Do you want to do that? We'll pray a little bit, and then we'll play a little bit. What do you think? Meaning what? I have to get on the child's level, the individual's level, depending on what phase they are in their life. So for the first 7 years, it's play. Teaching through play. Not just play without teaching. Then the next 7 years, it's disciplining. So yes, it is going to be a little bit more in that sense of, you did something wrong, you're going to get disciplined for it. If you don't do what's right, you're going to get disciplined for it, right? And of course, there's a way to discipline, right? It's intentional parenting. Actually, subhanAllah, all of the trends today with regards to how to parent, Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam gave it to us a long time ago. That next phase of the teenage years, I'm not there yet. I'm not looking forward to it. But you see that third phase, befriending them, being an advisor to them, right? You can't, the effectiveness that you're going to see is based on how are you going to engage with them so that they understand. It's all about the relationship. Children need from us to be with them playmates at that very young age. To be for them as parents bringing them up, teaching them, disciplining them at that second phase. And then that third phase is that phase of autonomy, that phase I'm my own person, befriending them, but being that wise, guiding, advising friend, right? That, I would say, honestly, looking at the teachings of Ahlul-Beyt alayhim salam, is an effective approach to take, right? And just to reflect further on it, if your child knows that they can go to you with anything, you're gonna reach them. But that doesn't come without putting the time and the effort and the energy. A lot of times we want our children to just do what we think is best without investing in the relationship. And it's not easy. And honestly, I started off with this and I'm going to end with this. It is not easy being a parent. So God bless every parent in the room, whatever phase that they're in, whatever experience that they're in. I'm praying for you. Pray for me, because I'm heading in that direction as well in that next phase. And rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A lot of times, if not all the time, we try, but it's that prayer with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and really having that tawakkul, that dependence, that reliance, that faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that opens up things for you. I'll tell you, my wife and I give my wife all the credit, but between both of us as parents, what we have in our children, we look at each other every night and we say, we're so blessed to have the children that we have. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is doing it. You and I, we're really just taking part of God's work. So having that reliance and faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that will take you far, inshallah.
Ahsantum. We have one question over here, and I think, no, nothing. All right, so this one right here says, it was on the original one, but it reloaded, got lost, but it's come back. Is it haram to accuse someone of telling on you and they're wrong? Do they get the sin? So if I tell on you and I'm wrong, did I sin?
If you if you made up something about me, let's say. So you tell.
Let's say I thought it was true.
Who'd you tell?
The principal.
The principal. So if a person is spreading a lie, an accusation of something that I did that's wrong, that's sinful, that could fall under buhtan, and that's a grave sin. It's a very big sin. Most of us, buhtan. So many of us, by the way, we hear of, who has heard of ghiba, right? Ghiba is speaking ill about someone. Many people may misunderstand ghiba as like, oh, you're spreading rumors and lies about someone. Ghiba is actually particularly about you sharing a sin that did actually happen of someone. So if you knew I did a certain crime, a certain sin, and you shared it with Hamza, right? You said, Hajj Jalal did 1, 2, 3. And I actually did it, let's say, right? And you told Hamza. You telling Hamza is actually one of the greatest sins, even though I did it. That's ghiba. That's what is referred to in the Holy Quran of eating the flesh of your dead brother. Backbiting. Right? So now imagine the graveness of the sin of what? You're sharing something about someone that's not true. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's bad, don't do it.
Thank you so much.
Hamza, don't listen to it, don't hear it.
Thank you so much, Hajj Jalal. May Allah bless you, and thank you so much for your time and for your great speeches and wisdom words. Thank you so much.
Afwan, thank
May
you.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shower His blessings on you and your family. And we would love to see you here all the time. And would love to see your kids with you as well.
God
and
bless you.
Inshallah, there will be the best of kids in the community everywhere, inshallah.
Thank
They
you
follow
so much.
Dad's footsteps. So, and we also welcome Brother Sayyid Haidar here. Nice to see you, Sayyid Haidar, and love to see you all the time as well. So thank you so much. And actually, I just don't want to hold the younger brothers and sisters because the burgers are ready for them outside, and I've been told that, you know, if I'm standing, we're standing between you and the burgers right now, so you don't hate us too much. But maybe we can have bonfire after that, and we can sit down and talk about all kinds of stuff after that. So with loud salawat, we thank Sheikh and Hajj Jalal for his beautiful speech for tonight, and we inshallah continue after the dinner. Inshallah, if we have some questions, younger brothers and sisters, for Hajj Jalal, he will be available inshallah here. But we will conclude with ziyarah with Brother Abu Sajjad reading it for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.